First thing we're going to talk about today is prep. And I know it seems redundant, but preparation's key. A lot of companies go into these trade shows worrying about, what are we going to do last minute? Are we ready? These things should be planned out months ahead of time. You should have your floor planning done. You should have your booth set up. Everything should be in order so that way there's no last minute scrambling at the day of the event. Next is presentation. Know your booth space, whether it's a corner, an island, or simply if you're straight down the middle. Know what you're working with. Be aware of your surroundings. Make sure that you have the right products for the right show. Never go into a trade show blind. Know your target audience. For instance, we use mini flags that we've specifically made for our customers and their demographics to appeal to them. Make sure that you have a solid target audience and a plan to approach that target. Encourage visitors to spend time with you at your booth. Learn about your customers. Learn about their events, their tactics, other things that they're going to need. Don't just hash over the specifics of your products, but really get to know your customers. Last but not least of the do's of the list, practice, practice, practice. You should have your trade show team assemble the products, practice, get used to the environment that they're going to be in. Familiarize yourself with the trade show floor. Be ready. Practice, practice, practice. Now we'll talk about some of the don'ts of trade shows. Never get caught playing on your phone, working on your computer. There's a time and a place for those things. That time and place is not at a trade show. Avoid sitting. This is a huge turnoff for prospective buyers. Don't be engaged in private conversations with your coworkers or on a private conversation on your cell phone. Never be late for booth responsibilities. Too many times we see all these companies wander in with either hangovers or they wander in late. Be ready. Don't show up late for the trade show. Never let your booth get cluttered or unorganized. If you've been doing trade shows long enough, you'll learn the secrets and tricks to be able to hide things under tablecloths, behind back walls, etc. Never let boxes clutter your way. Too many times we see employees standing with their back towards the aisle. This ignores lots of prospective buyers. This also makes them feel not welcome. Engage the customer and don't stand with your back towards the aisle. Last but not least, don't badmouth your competitors. It's okay to talk about the difference in quality and price, but we don't want to be known as the company that badmouths our competitors.
Trade show attendees are going to walk past a lot of booths on the show day, and not everyone will engage with you or even notice if you don't say something to draw them in. In fact, according to a recent Sears study, nearly 55% of attendees prefer to walk quietly through the show floor without speaking to booth staffers. But if you can say something to draw them in and prove that you have something valuable to offer them, you could convert them into a promising lead. The most important thing to do when breaking the ice with a trade show attendee is to ask an open-ended question. An open-ended question is designed to get your prospect talking, and it cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. Open-ended questions serve to do two things. One, stop an attendee in their tracks and draw them into your booth. And two, gain a valuable piece of information about the prospect that will help you qualify them as a lead right away. On the other hand, close-ended questions can be easily dismissed as an attendee is breezing by your booth. An example of a closed-ended question would be, are you enjoying the show? An open-ended way to phrase that would be, what do you think of the show so far? This way, you will find out what excites your prospects right off the bat. Try to tie that into something that you have to offer them to get them excited about your products. Even a question as simple as, what brings you to the show today, is often very effective. This will give you valuable information about their objectives immediately. Remember to project confidence without being too aggressive. And don't forget to smile.
This is Robert Strong reporting for Spark Media Solutions. I'm here at the IAEE Expo. It's the trade show for trade show people. It's 2014, Los Angeles, California, and we thought we'd walk the trade show floor and ask the experts the best way to engage the attendees. Okay, so what's a good opening line? When you came here, did you practice a few lines and write them down?
No.
You didn't do that?
Do you do that?
Yeah, I write down the opening lines and the closing lines. People spend clearly a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy, maybe $30,000 a year, maybe. Yeah. Maybe about that.
Safe to say.
Safe to say. And they don't take 10 minutes to write the opening lines for the staff.
No, actually, that's correct. I actually think a lot of attendees don't do that, or exhibitors.
What's your best opening line?
I don't know.
Okay, let me ask you this. Probably how much money do you spend to be at a show like this?
Oh my gosh.
A lot.
$30,000?
$30,000. and you didn't take 10 minutes to write a line, what you're going to say when people walk by?
I don't have a line.
When people walk by your booth, what's your best opening line?
How you doing?
How's the show going for you?
How's your day going?
My best opening line is hello.
Hello, how are you today?
Good afternoon. It gets them to bring them over to the booth.
Okay, good afternoon gets them to come over to the booth.
And of course, my looks.
What's your best opening line?
We had a chance for you to win a Coach gift card. Come on over here, get some information, find out about our transportation services, and give yourself a chance to win.
Hey, how you doing? Would you like some free earbuds?
You want to win a free iPad?
Haven't I seen you here before?
How cool is this booth?
What are you shopping for today?
Are you interested in registration services for your trade show or convention?
Best opening line.
Where are you from?
Come by and talk about San Francisco.
When was the last time you were in Monterey?
Welcome to La La Land. Have you ever been to Baltimore? Or we could say, have you had one of our wonderful crab cakes from Baltimore?
Would you like some Monterey wine?
Can I offer you a mimosa?
Would you like a beer?
That's my leg.
I'm wearing a red-orange nose. Don't you want to come and see why?
You want to get some new customers and you see bright-eyed, smiley people walking by your booth. What's your best opening line?
We trip them. We lay out our feet, ankles out, trip them over, and we're like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And then we have them sit down at our couch.
10 tips to help your business expo stand out from the rest. Tip 1. Make sure when you actually have a stand that you reduce as many barriers as possible. So many stands have a barrier in front of them, and it draws this invisible line between you and your customer. Barriers. Tip 2, when you actually have all the barriers pushed back, make sure you've got things that are just slightly in reach for your customer to grab, like pamphlets, books, any of the products that you're selling. A lot of people push it right to the back and expect the customers to walk all the way in. Tip number 3. We want to make sure that you actually have 3 different ways to generate leads and be able to create conversations with your customer. So here are some ideas. Some of the stands that really get buzzing at expos have different ways of actually creating conversation. So what do you have to be able to create conversation with your customers? Some people have a guessing competition. Some businesses want to invest a little bit more money and have one of those big chocolate wheels and they spin it and you have different freebie prizes. So the idea of these games and little things that you can do to draw attention or to create a little bit of conversation at your stand are things that are fun. It doesn't have to be exactly what your business is about, but it's a way to create attention to your business. So now to do any engagement, it's what are some conversation starters? And that goes into tip 4. Conversation starters. What do you do to get the conversation going? You've attracted people into your stand, or perhaps you've started to just talk to somebody because they've stood there for just a little bit longer than normal and you can see they're slightly interested in eyeing off one of your brochures. What do you do to get the conversation going? Have you practiced some open questions? Open-ended questions start with what, how, who, why, and when. Tip 5. How do we get voted best stand at the expo? I tell you why. Because we chose not to stand inside the stand, we chose to stand outside. You want to make sure that you look like part of the visitors going through. So I would strongly recommend stand outside the line. Take a step out of the line and then either slightly turn your body to the side so you're not front on. You got side on, which is less intrusive, or I also sometimes stand back and I'll just talk to people and I'll be looking back at the stand, but I make sure there's a lot of movement around the stand. Talk about tip 6. What can you do to grab people's attention? Because sometimes people do walk by and they don't give you much eye contact. They walk with their eyes to the ground or they sort of look at the products, but they never give you eye contact. How do you catch their eye? Well, have you ever thought about just having something to throw in your hands? Stress balls are fantastic. I even used to use apples. My past life in sales actually started in the fitness industry. So what we used to do, we had a bucket of apples and we would grab an apple out with a tea towel. We would clean it with a tea towel and we'd say to somebody, hi, catch. And we would throw the apple from the tea towel, so it's nice and clean, and throw it to the person. Make sure you've got the eye contact there. You don't want to hit the people in the head. But you could do it with stress balls. You could do it with apples. You could do it with anything. You could just throw it up to yourself. Or you could see someone, get some eye contact. Hi, how are you today? Here, catch, have a stress ball. You could just throw something in the air by yourself and catch it. And then make sure you look around to see who's actually watching, because it will catch people's eyes. Just tip 7. Make sure you have something there that people will just come in and say, oh, do you mind if I actually grab a lolly? 7. Now, do you have an expo booth that when a customer comes up, it takes a while to explain your products and services? Well, if you do, I strongly recommend for tip 7 that your booth is customer friendly, meaning that they don't have to stand there the whole time because their legs get sore from standing on the spot. You know that because you'll be there for 2 days or sometimes more with some expos. And you'll have some little bar stools there. So have some little bar stools there, so when you're talking to them, it's easy for them just to lean against the bar stool or to have an easy seat. Now, step 8. How many of you get stuck explaining what it is that you do or your product or your services? Do you actually practice that? Remember, when you're explaining what your products and services do, that it's not how it does it first. Make sure you go into the very, very benefit and the outcome that the customer will feel and what it will actually give them. Now, finally, biggest tip I can give you is a lot of businesses think that they can't sell at the stand. It's just about going there and creating leads. What are you doing as in demonstrations? What are you doing in your sales process? Do you have it so refined that you can actually sell on the day? If not, sit down, start grooming it.
I'm Michael Geetson, Managing Director of Identity Group. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my 8 top tips to making your next exhibition stand a success. Tip number 1, the power of great design. Never underestimate the importance of making sure your stand design looks great. After all, your stand is the shop window for the day. Tip number 2, make sure what stays with the customer has an impact. Although literature can be physically a small element to the whole exhibition stand, it's one of the only things that customers take away. Ensure that the literature on your stand gives the right message. Tip number 6, pull out all the bells and whistles. Having a perfect exhibition stand is one thing, but if no one stops by them, the effort and expense has been wasted. Think about ways to get people to your stand in a bid to engage them in conversation. What attracts you to an exhibition stand? Inviting staff is a great starting point, so to make sure the team are well dressed in branded clothing or smart casual clothing if that's what your brand is, and that they have been well trained on how to engage with visitors. People love a freebie, but try to think of a giveaway that's a bit different but still in line with your brand. You want to ensure that it has some legs after the show. Another area of giveaways is to explore hospitality, which is a great element that keeps visitors on the stand. For example, for me, nothing beats freshly made coffee by a barista to kickstart off a show. The time it takes to make it and for it to cool and become drinkable gives your team valuable one-to-one time with those potential customers. Many exhibitors will run a competition to attract visitors. Think of something that will draw your target audience and make them stay on the stand whilst entering the details for your chance to win, as this gives you a great opportunity to pitch your products and services. Another tip here is the more value the prize, the more demanding you can be with the data capture. Tip number 7, failure to follow up leads. Prior to attending the trade show, it's critical to set up a post-show plan for following up on those leads. When you return to the office after the exhibition, it's important to get your sales team on the phones as soon as possible to avoid those missed opportunities or, at worst, losing business to a competitor. Studies have shown that it's more than 75% of trade show leads are never followed up. Don't let your team fall into this percentage. It isn't necessarily a catch-all approach. There are various techniques for capturing data at shows, and they can be badge scanners, competitions, business card draws. And so, depending on the nature of your business, try to implement qualification. So this could be hot, warm, or cold. And this will impact the way that you follow up. And so hot ones, phone calls, cold ones, maybe just adding them to your email database. Another great product I've been playing with recently is BombBomb. It's an online video tool that you can record your own short messages. So what a great way of following up after a show. Tip number 8, Choose your stand staff wisely. You may have the best looking stand at the show, but if your staff on the stand are dressed inappropriately, have poor attitude, or unable to answer questions from potential customers, or insufficiently experienced at generating sales, your effort in exhibiting may be wasted. Exhibition stand staff should be happy, friendly and knowledgeable, so choose those that are most capable of achieving your business objectives at the show.